The coast is a really interesting place. There's all sorts of depositional features and erosional features that are created along the shore. If we look at those coastal zones, all the areas that are contribute to a coast, there's the offshore deep stuff. You have near shore deep stuff. And then at the low tide shoreline starts the foreshore region. So foreshore is between the low tide and high tide line. Then you have your backshore. And then from there you have the coast. But everybody likes beaches, right? That's a lovely shot of a beach in Polynesia. What color is the sand here? As the sand is white, and the color of the sand usually has to do with what rocks weathered to actually make this sand. And so if we look closely here, this particular white sandy beach in Polynesia is made mostly of quartz. So this is a nice micrograph of a really pretty white quartz. You can see there's a little bit of hematite staining, but this is why you get those really nice clean white beaches. But that doesn't mean every beach that has white sand is made out of quartz. This is a beach in Japan. This is now officially on my bucket list. It's not quite as pure white here, but you can see it's a fairly light buff tan color like you'd expect from sand until you take a nice close look at it. The sand here is star-shaped. This is actually, the name of this beach translates to Star Beach. And these are plankton that live offshore here, and then when they die their little bodies wash up, and this is what collects to make the beach. So in this case there's not a river contributing to it, but it's the life forms around it. If we move on to Hawaii, I've got lots of Hawaiian beaches for you here. Here's a great beach in Hawaii full of red sand. Why is this sand red? Well, in this case this beach is made up of tiny pieces of scoria, and that scoria has lots of iron in it. So of course when you have a rock with lots of iron, especially right by the coast, it's going to oxidize. And you can see in the background actually of this beach that's eroded into a cinder cone, which is going to be made of scoria anyway. Here is a really cool beach in Hawaii. It's a nice long hike out. It's like 3.5 miles one way, and it's uncovered. There's not a lot of shade. It's actually pretty hot to get out there, but once you get there it's a pretty empty beach and it's beautiful. And I don't know how well it shows up here, but that sand is a really nice army drab green color. Green sand. This green sand is actually made of olivine that's weathering out of this cinder cone you see here. If you ever get bored one day, come by my office and I will show you the jar of green sand that's just hanging around over here, and you can actually see what this beach looks like. I've been out here. It's a really neat place. It's a small bay and the water's really rough. You can't swim, but it's really cool to visit. Here's another beach in Hawaii that I've been to. In this case, the sand is black. So if you take a close look at that black sand, this is all pieces of basalt and even obsidian. This is all on a shield volcano. So you have lots of shield volcanoes and cinder cones, which all erupt felsic material. So you end up with these big, really nice black sand beaches. Now this particular one, I actually got to swim in a little tide pool with a sea turtle, which was really awesome. Here's a nice white sand beach in Hawaii. This is actually Waikiki Beach. So, is this your quartz sand in Hawaii? Well, there's no quartz in all of Hawaii unless it's brought in. In this case, it's a natural beach though, but if we look close, this beach is made up of pieces of coral. So that's how you get your white sand at Waikiki Beach, is the coral offshore here. Here's one more beach for you in Hawaii. Isn't this lovely? If you look real close, there's clear pieces of sand. There's brown. There's very dark, almost black. There's quite a few green pieces. Every once in a while you get lucky and find a blue one. How do you get a beach that's so colorful? Well, this isn't exactly natural here. This beach was actually by an old bottle plant. And they would be making bottles. That's why you see clear and brown and green a lot here. And when they'd have bottles that were defective, they'd just toss them out the back. And so all these bottles end up breaking down over time. It makes sea glass. There are people who collect this stuff. It actually gets kind of pricey depending on where you are if you find those colors that are pretty rare. But in this case, all the pieces are broken up enough to make small sand-sized pieces. They're all rounded, so even though they're glass, they're not going to cut you, just like quartz. I mean, because it's basically the same thing. Now, Hawaii is not the only place with this. Even California has a rainbow beach made of old bottle glass. This will take you up to the shores of California, right along Big Sur. This is Pfeiffer Beach or Pfeffer Beach. I'm not exactly sure which one is the correct pronunciation. But if you look here, the sand is purple. And it looks kind of funny here, but you really legitimately find purple sand here. And it's because the rocks above it that you see in the cliffs in the background have a lot of garnets. And the garnets are eroding out and creating purple sand. And if you ever want to see what this looks like for realsies, or at least the sand, I've got a bunch of this in my office too. It's apparently a fairly popular place. There's an arch here, which makes it into a lot of photography, particularly right at sunset. Don't ever try to go on a holiday weekend, or you get to walk all the way down to the beach here. Oh, it's not too bad. Well, this is another part of the coast of California. Isn't this lovely? Don't you want to take a beach towel out and sit here? No, in this case, it's not even a sandy beach. As many sandy beaches as we have, there are also rocky beaches. In this case, you don't have sand depositing, you just have rocks eroding off the cliffs around it. And so just know that not every beach is nice and pretty and sandy in this case. Some of them look a little bit different.